Hi, thanks for joining us again. Today I want to talk about Optex Bands. Now this is a tool that we developed in Optima, and it's a fairly unique tool, finding mean reverting trades and mean reverting opportunities. Now remember, from our perspective, we talk about the primary trend. So if the trend's going up, that's the primary trend. And then we always have these counter trend reactions. And so what we're trying to find with the Optex Bands is when we've got that counter trend opportunity, and obviously then we can look at it and say, okay, this may be a really good buying opportunity. As with every technical signal, nothing's 100%, nothing's going to give you, anyone promises you that they've got a trading strategy that wins 100% of the time, run, because it's just not possible. What we're doing here is we're looking at this and we're saying, can we find something that has a high probability of success? So what we base this on is the market profile. So if I come down, I've got the market profile here because I was just checking a few things before. Let's just put this on the chart here. I want to get that 20 bars. A little trick, if I hold down the shift key and then click and drag, I can get this little measuring tool. It's great for measuring peaks and troughs and things like that. So I'm at 17 bars. So let me click on that and we'll drag that out to 20 bars. So I've got a 20 bar market profile. Market profile created by Peter Stottlemyre in Chicago. He was a trader and he would use this on intraday data, 30-minute bars, and take these levels, you know, these points where the color changes are the most important levels. And he would then use that the next day to sort of help him get a gauge of where the market has fair value, where the buyers and the sellers believe fair value is. Because that's where this volume is. You know, this is really kind of like a volume chart where there was the most price action. And if there's a lot of price action around a certain price, then we know that's where people believe is fair value. So if we start getting too far away from that, then it's likely that prices will come back to it. Back in 2013, I started looking at this and saying, hey, what if we treated this a little more like a Bollinger Bands, where we have this interval, we do our calculation, and then we move across one bar and do it all again. And then we join all of these values for the point of control, this line in the middle, and the different standard deviation zones. And so that's where the dynamic market profile came from. And so that's all of those zone lines being joined together as we go. And it's kind of pretty interesting where we can see the market coming down and pushing into that third standard deviation and then coming back out and crossing. Now, obviously, this big rundown in February, there was going to be a lot of signals happening, but the trend had shifted down. And again, if you go all the way back to Charles Dow, one of his tenets was always trade with the trend. Don't take these trades against the prevailing trend. We had definitely broken all sort of support lines and everything through here. So we shouldn't have been looking for a long trade at this point. What that actually means is that we'll never actually trade the bottom. We'll never get the bottom signal because we shouldn't be taking that signal. What Optex Bands we're doing, as I said, is we're looking for those counter trend trades. We're looking for the trend to be up. We're not getting confirmation that there's a change in trend yet, but we've got this little counter trend reaction. We want to catch the bottom of that one. So forgetting this period, because this is a bad example, you know, we can go back and look further in time and see how this, you know, happened. So if you look at the overall trend of the market, you know, obviously we've got a downtrend in late 2018 here. We're looking at the FTSE at the moment. And then we got uptrends as well. And it's these sorts of moves. Now, this tool was interesting. It was good, but still didn't quite get there. And then a friend of mine, Carson Dahlberg, and I were talking, and we came up with this idea on Optex Bands, which is to take the distance that price is away from the point of control and then to normalize that using ATRs. Because one of the things when you're creating indicators and you're looking at indicators, it's really important to be able to say that there's some sort of normalization. Because it's a volatility measure, we're basically volatility adjusting the indicator results so that we know that when it's down here at -5 or -6, that's significant, and that's the same across all securities because they've been adjusted for their volatility. If we didn't do that and you had a volatile stock and it was jumping up and down, you'd be getting all these signals. But because we consider the volatility, then we know that we have a really significant signal when it enters this zone. So if we look at this, let me put the crosshair on, we can see this break in here and obviously came out. But what we're looking for mainly is this break of this 2.5 standard deviation line. And we say, well, that's an interesting signal. And we did a lot of quantitative testing on it, and I'll show you some of the tools very quickly in another video. But those are the ones, and you can see that it's capturing, didn't quite make it into there, I don't think we would have had a signal, made it into here. And you can see that they become really interesting signals, if nothing else, just to highlight to us that, whoa, let's just watch this security, because maybe in the next couple of days, this is going to turn around because we're at such an extreme level. We can always take things back to a behavioral finance point of view and say, hey, if something's beaten down so much, well, there's probably a lot of fund managers out there who are looking for opportunities for their portfolios. And unless, of course, there's some underlying story of why everyone's jumping ship, this may be a great opportunity to come in and buy that to our portfolio because it represents exceptional value right now. So I always like to take things back to behavior. What are people thinking? What story supports what we see in the price action? Bit of a mix of fundamental and technical. I don't really subscribe to the whole point of view of, oh, it's just technical and fundamentals mean nothing. No, fundamentals drive the market. Technicals help us take advantage of it. And so that's really what we're looking for here. So we've got all of these, and what we did to make things just a little bit easier is we added what we called Optex triggers. Now the Optex trigger 250 is based on the 2.5 standard deviation. And so we get these signals now. It makes it a little easier to see where these signals occurred in time. Now again, it's not always going to be right. No technical signal is, but we do get some really interesting ones like that. If I zoom out here, we can get a bigger picture of what's going on. You can see, obviously, again, we get some losers, but we're getting a lot of interesting triggers there, which are worth looking at, and they may be stocks which are worth further, or securities which are worth further investigation. You'll also see that we get lots of signals even on the downtrend. So again, what I was saying before, we want to get those counter trend signals in an uptrend. So what we want to add to our filter here is knowing when the market is in an uptrend. So what I might do is I'm just going to fade those out. So they're there, but not quite as bright. And let's add in the second version. So we have an Optex trigger 250 trend. Now this will only take those signals when the market is in an uptrend. So we can put those on. You'll see we've got a lot less. We're missing all of these ones down here, and we've got a lot of these ones. Obviously, that's interesting. The market was deemed to be no longer in an uptrend at that one. I thought that one would come in. So you can see how that works there. Really interesting. The way we determine the uptrend is again with a DMPA, and we set that to 252 for a year. And we want price to be above this center point of control. And if that's the case, then we say the market's in an uptrend as we go. So we have all of that, and what we can do is script on that. So I can come along here to the market and scan. I can say, right, let's add a new item here. And I want to add I'm just checking my list to see whether I have an Optex in there as well. Optex lower. So what I'm looking for, I'm creating a Optex band variable here, and I'm saying when the ratio, which is this black line, let's just make that to, is below. So I just want to know any stock. Now, I can do crosses below, which means that I want to be alerted whenever anything crosses. Now, if I was watching this every single day, that's probably a good thing to do. But what we can do is just leave it at the ratio being below. So if it happened yesterday or the day before, I'm still going to find it. And we hit apply to that. And I'm testing on the last bar, and I want to test on the S&P 500 will do. And let's execute that scan. All right, so we've got 3 names there which are worth looking at. So let's go and export those. And I'm going to open those results as a watch list. And let's just open up our chart. I want to put my trigger on there, and I want to look at my Optex Bands. Obviously, I didn't get an arrow here, and that's because the market's in a downtrend. And so it didn't trigger based on my rules. But still, we have the situation where the price is below the Optex Bands 2.5 line. And so that's why that's come up. So I'll be like, maybe not, it might be something to watch, but really that looks like, we've got a lower top. We've broken that little support there. This one's probably not a good one to look at. Let's come in and look here. This one's interesting, and we do get a trigger. So we've got no breaks of previous lows. This would probably be something worth looking at. And then again, another one, which is worth looking at as well. So you can see how quick and easy that is. As I said, this is really just a really quick example of how you can use it, or just sort of making you aware of Optex Bands, because it is a very powerful tool. We developed this one over about 7 years as we went there. So I hope that's helpful to you. I think next time what we're going to do is start looking at a little bit of the testing tools as well. Thank you.